Hello, this is Roland Tournier for Bokeh Video. I'm doing a product review on the Ikelite underwater housing, which I recently purchased at B&H Photography. First, I noticed it's a lot heavier than you think it would be. It came with a cover for the lens and also the red filter, which you put on when you're deep sea diving. It changes it puts red back into the color into your video. It has it's made out of hardened plastic, and I'd almost say some kind of plexiglass. And the camera sits inside. There's a tray. You can bolt the camera down, and you have controls. The knobs and the buttons are used for mechanically moving the controls on the camera. You can also buy, if you have deep pockets, you can also buy camera bodies that have electronic controls where you'll be able to set your white balance, your focus, your aperture, your exposure, all on your handles. These, again, you need deep pockets to buy one of those. For your average prosumer, this is probably, well, I shouldn't say that for me anyways, this is probably all I really wanted to spend. I couple this with, or I use my XA20 with this. I did do a practice run in my hot tub, and it seems to, it works as advertised. It's a little bit more difficult to manipulate the buttons. It does take some practice. For example, when you want to change your exposure, you have to hit the function button on the back and then use your up and down toggle to scroll through the menu, and then you have to change the function again. It is quite time consuming. And I could imagine underwater could be difficult. It's going to take some practice. You also get a mirror that the idea is that you can see, you flip your viewfinder sideways on the camera and you can see through the mirror to see what you're filming. I was thinking of also I should include a little bit of a comparison between the XA20 using the Ikelite case and the GoPro Hero 4 Black Edition. And the only reason why is because this is the only other underwater camera I have that I can compare this to. And also, these cameras are extremely easy to use compared to using a full-size camcorder underwater in a waterproof casing. And as you know, you don't have any settings. It's all on auto basically for your GoPros. Makes life a lot easier. And from what I've seen so far, just testing it in my hot tub in the backyard, is that this is a whole lot easier to use than the XA20 in a waterproof casing, to the point where I think most people would be quite happy just using a high-end GoPro compared to the cost and the trouble setting one of these up underwater. But again, as a video enthusiast, you can't help but want to go to the next level, to get a little bit better picture. It was more trouble scrolling through getting the exposure than anything else. Even the white balance wasn't too bad because you could set it with one of the buttons. You could program on the camera to, if anybody has an XA20, you know what I'm talking about. When you put it on manually, you can program, you've got 5 buttons that you can program for any function. And I use number 3, and all you have to do is push in on number 3. It brings up your white balance. You set your white balance and you're good to go. All right. So here we have our XA20. We're about to put it in our Ikelite underwater housing. first thing we have to do is strip down the XA20, take off all the peripherals. There's 2 screws at the back. As most people know, you have to loosen off on the handle, pull up your set screws, slide your handle back, remove your handle, and now we put the camera down for a minute and we go back to the housing. The housing has a special locking mechanism right here on, you have to push in on the release mechanisms. You got to push down and you flip the lever up backwards, and you have to take care that you hold on to it. You just don't let it snap. In the manual, it recommends that it warns you actually that you can damage your housing if you just snap it up. Now, you can see, here's the controls from the inside. So we'll put the housing down for a minute. We take our camera, we sit it, and again, I was concerned at first that it wouldn't take the extended battery, which it does. They've notched out a little bit of a hole here in the back of the plate, and what that does is gives room for the, you can use a large battery now. It's not really any trouble lining up. It seems to go in fairly quick. Now your camera's sitting on the housing, the inside of the housing, and the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your viewfinder, you're going to flip it over and put it back again, so you can see it through the side of your housing. Now you take your housing. Before you take your housing, you pull back on your controls, so you've got clearance to get past with the camera. It slides in. I like this one because I can see the camera on the inside. I can see if there's moisture getting in. Also, I can see the O-ring, whether or not it's properly sealing. And if you look carefully, you can actually tell. This is your on-off switch, and you'll be able to see it. You probably, maybe because of the glare, you won't be able to. But anyways, your on-off switch right here, you can see it, and all you have to do is just flip it forward, either for camera or back for media. The green light is on. The power, I just powered it up. Again, I'm using it on manual. I personally wouldn't use this on fully auto everything. I just don't think it would work that well. I think you need, I'm going to try it, but I've got a feeling that manual exposure, manual white balance, you set your gain manually. These are probably things that will give you just a little bit better video quality. Why go through all the trouble of bringing this with you, and when you can just as easily use a GoPro? You know, the reason I like this is because you can adjust it. It's not going to be easy. It's definitely not going to be an easy thing doing the settings on it. One of the issues I have with where the positioning of the mirror is, I think it's too low. I think that most people will, your head would be above and you'd be looking down slightly at the camera housing. And again, you can see where it cuts off it just cuts off the view a little bit. If looking straight on the camera, it's fine. I doubt if you would be. My feeling is that you'd probably be looking down a little bit. We'll have to see. But I'm seriously thinking of on the side of the housing is actually moving this physically up, or taking it off at the hinge and moving it up a notch. And that probably would fix that problem. Overall, I think the underwater casing with the XA20 underwater will definitely take up my video quality a notch. I don't think it's for everybody. I think that for most people, like a good GoPro, like the Black Edition Hero 4, it's probably all you're ever going to need. And it sure is a whole lot easier carrying around. That's the other thing, the difference in weight and size. And getting this off a dive boat, on a dive boat, out of the water, having to care for it, multitude of problems. Your hands aren't free with this. You need two hands in order to control that. You won't be using your hands so much for swimming. With a GoPro, you basically put it on one of those bobber handles, and you can let it dangle off of your BCE, tie it off or whatever and forget about it, or even mount it. I have an underwater scuba mask that the GoPro camera will mount on, and then now your hands free. I even have a shoulder mount. They're hard to beat. I think this is probably more than enough for most people. But again, like I said, as an enthusiast, a videography enthusiast, to take it up a notch, really the only way you can is to go to an underwater casing with a camcorder. What I would recommend to anybody buying an underwater casing, practice, practice, practice before you go in the water. Make sure you're able to use your controls, your settings, and your functions. Set your gain, adjust your f-stops, do your white balance. It's going to be only more difficult in the water and take a little longer. I'm taking a white card down with me when I go. I'll probably get my partner to hold it up for me while I set my white balance. This is Roland Tournier for Bokeh Video with my review of the Ikelite underwater housing for the Canon XA20.